Hello, Anthony.
Hello, can you see me?
Hey, I can see you, but can you see me?
I can see you. Everything's great.
Okay, nice. I just can't see myself, but that's that doesn't matter.
I'm sorry, it takes like 5 whole minutes every time we start up Zoom. There's a long, slow process of logging in and stuff. I mean, I can connect immediately, but to actually start up the meeting, it's just very, very slow. Um,
Yeah, okay, no problems. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for having the time to talk with me.
oh, you're welcome.
That's do you have Scandinavian heritage?
Yes, Olson, son of Oli.
Yeah, son of Ollie. Yeah, you know from where in Scandinavia?
I'm not that familiar with that. My grandmother did a whole bunch of genealogy, and she
Yeah,
was really deep into that. And I haven't picked up that banner yet myself.
yeah,
So I only know it back to Canada and through that to the British Isles, but not all the way back to Scandinavia that much.
no, okay, okay. So maybe I should just start introducing myself. I'm a MA student at the University of Oslo, doing my master's in social anthropology. Um, so in the end of this month, I'm going on a 6 month field work in the US, working on my project, which is about freedom, you know,
Oh,
freedom,
I
freedom
love it.
and alternative futures. And this is where, and like this is how I heard of the Seasteading Institute. Um, and the project isn't really all mapped out yet, but my naive like starting point is trying to figure out like freedom as what can freedom be? How do we talk about it? How do we experience it? Freedom as a political act, as a driving force for social change, as an experience, all these things, and with and with a freedom haven, I'm thinking of like freedom. I like freedom as the drive kind of behind like making a new community, thinking of alternative futures, kind of radical way of thinking about freedom, which is really exciting, I think. Um,
And the freedom we're speaking for specifically is what we call socio-economic freedom. So it's both social freedom and economic freedom to
yeah,
differentiate from other people who talk about, soaring through the skies, I'm free, or having $1 million, I'm free. Those are also
yeah,
different versions of freedom, but we're talking specifically about you being able to do whatever you want as long as you aren't threatening someone else's life, freedom, or property.
mm,
And you can't threaten someone else's life, freedom, and property unless it's in self-defense. So basically, and the non-aggression principle, essentially.
yeah. And like, how did you come up with this? I mean, it's not your idea, but how did you get involved with this? Was this through the Seasteading Institute, or
Actually, it started
yeah,
up before before I even knew about the Seasteading Institute. The Seasteading Institute found us about a year into our project. Our we were Me and my online friends would gather and we would lament about the loss of freedom and how it felt hopeless, our attempts to obtain more the freedoms that we've lost. And we had a fascination with different technologies that were in use at the time. The massive ships that were out there and the tiny home and so forth. And then one day it just kind of dawned on the group that we could combine all those together and have a floating city. And then we realized that the the jurisdictions of all nations, 99% of the nations on Earth signed the United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea, the United Nations contract that basically they acknowledge that their jurisdiction stops 200 nautical miles from shore. So everything
yeah,
beyond that is essentially free. It's called freedom of the seas. Now there's some qualifiers there. You have to have a flag that the International Maritime Organization recognizes. And whatever treaties that country's flag has signed carry over to you as well. And also, if that country has passed any laws that specifically apply to the oceans, which most laws passed don't apply to oceans, then those also apply. But what one thing they probably hadn't accounted for is that there became a competition for different countries to want the business of offering the flag at a fee to different ships. So ships
Yeah.
would actually go and consumers start looking around to find out which flag offered them the best choices. And so this became a flag of convenience, is what the term is. And
Okay.
because of that, we can now get a flag where there's only certain international maritime laws that apply to the vessel and to the crew, but not to the passengers. If
Yeah.
we're outside of the 200 nautical miles, all of the freedoms we look for, if we
Mm.
take one of these mega ships, they're making city ships, about two or so every single year. You know that they just keep churning them out. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're not trying to, unlike some other seasteading projects that you might encounter,
Mm.
we're not trying to invent something new. We're all for that, but we
Yeah.
won't stop the project because we're waiting for it. Been around for decades and it's tried and tested technology. We're just applying it in a different way. We're turning one of these adjusted version of these designs, like this cruise, the mega cruise ships that we see, and turning it into basically a floating port city that will remain permanently outside the jurisdiction, and ships will come to and from it, and it will be
Mm.
essentially a port. And we'll have exports and imports. We'll import probably lots of our food, not because we can't grow it locally, but because it'll be cheaper to buy
Mm.
a ear of corn from Iowa halfway around the world than it would be to grow corn in our own
Yeah.
little mini barge, because
Oh.
the land is so expensive. But we can export things like medicine and things that our free market can provide cheaper at a higher quality and at a higher quality than other countries can. So we would basically be another market entity in a global market.
Yeah. And how do you like? Because what I've seen, like the research I've done on the internet, it's not that much information on the other, Ethos Island and Atlas World are the two other seasteading communities. What sets you guys apart, for me at least, is you have a very like communal perspective in a way with your constitution and everything. You are, yeah, because you're not like waiting for the technology. You are actually building a community from the ground up in a. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I see that as a very important aspect of your work, the
And
community
also,
building.
though, yeah, the community building, and also 90, the majority, other than one other, I think it was Atlas Island, um,
Mm-hmm.
also is the only one of the one that I remember that actually sees this as well. All the other ones are building something close to shore inside the jurisdiction of existing countries. They are
Yeah.
building fancy millionaire houses, which are very beautiful and very luxurious and lavish, but that's not what we're going for. They don't offer any freedoms other than the freedom to see a beautiful sunrise in the morning, and that's pretty amazing. But it's not what we're looking for. We're looking for being outside of it. We're being out 200 nautical miles from shore, and also they're focused on smaller vessels,
Mm-hmm.
that really, the high seas can be dangerous. And if
Yeah.
you're even though we're going to be in a calmer part of the ocean, the the scary movies with the storms, and like the Perfect Storm movie and all those different things, those are smaller ships in some of the worst parts of the ocean in the Northern Sea. And we're going to be far, far away from that. The seas are much calmer in comparison, but you may still have a wave and a storm that could reach up to 4 meters in height. And for a small
Mm-hmm.
vessel, that's significant. But for these
Yeah.
big mega container ships or mega cruise ships, you might notice that there's a storm going on.
Mm. Yeah.
The ship may actually sway a little.
Mm.
That's the worst of it.
Mm.
Um, so having the critical size is important, and you also need to have a critical mass to have a thriving local marketplace.
Mm.
There are people today that take their crews or their sail ships, sailboats, and go out on the ocean for a year, isolation,
mm,
without the community, without the local marketplace. They're
mm.
just burning through their money until it's time to go back to shore and get a job before they can go out for another year. We
Yeah.
plan to be out there indefinitely and
Mm,
prospering, not still having the same amount we had before, but actually providing a service to the global market that it needs and becoming more wealthy in the process. Poor
mm,
people becoming middle class and middle class becoming upper class as we produce whatever it is the market wants with freedom.
mm.
I'm excited about it.
Yeah, it's super exciting. When you can I ask you, when you talk about when you and your friends were thinking about this in the beginning, what kind of social economic freedom did you feel, or how did you feel that your freedom were shrinking in a way?
It became, well, two ways. One, there are already so many laws on the books in
Mm,
America that, most of them aren't enforced, but they're selectively enforced whenever a bureaucrat or a police officer wants to make you do something. And a police
mm,
officer or bureaucrat can make you do whatever it is they want you to do if they find a law in the books that you've broken, and there's enough laws that everyone can be found to be breaking some law that they don't even know about. Um,
mm,
and one famous lawyer, I forgot his name was, actually wrote a book about the fact that there's if he had enough time, he could find at least three felons that any
mm.
person that he's studying has broken and didn't even realize it. I
Yeah.
myself in my life had found that there was a time where there was one felony that I committed and I didn't even know about it. I fixed it
Mm,
quick as soon as I found about it. But if I had been caught at that moment, I could have been in prison for 20 years, lost a chance to vote. It's so we live in that kind of situation where it's already kind of a tyranny because anyone in power can choose to target you and make you comply with whatever it is they want. And the
mm,
second one is that in addition to that, there's more and more laws each year. Every time I want to go out and do something, to innovate, to build something, to find a solution for something, just to solve a problem, I find that there's a law already in place stopping me from doing that.
mm,
And every time I want to innovate, every time I want to spread my wings and help solve problems, serve people, I can't. It's illegal,
mm,
and that gets worse every year.
mm,
Those two things together is I want to do more. I want to be more involved and reach my potential. And I feel like I can't do that without the freedoms that we no longer have, if that makes sense.
yeah, 100%. That's also the way I've been thinking about it. Like reading about it, like I think of it as what you guys are doing as kind of creating a space where you can flourish creatively. Like, yeah,
I imagine that after this thing's up and running, you're gonna have parties all the time.
yeah,
Not getting drunk parties, not oh my life's miserable, but just people being happy. People be walking around just playing music and singing just because people be
mm,
so happy to actually be able. A quick background of myself. I lived in Germany for a total of 6.5 years, and 2 of those years I was on a religious mission in East Germany. So I
mm,
was with West Germans for 4.5 years, and East Germans, and this is like maybe I forgot, maybe 3 years after the wall came down. So this is shortly after the Berlin Wall came down,
mm,
and the
mm,
difference between East Germany and West Germany was astounding. The
mm,
people in East Germany, because they've been out behind this wall for like 40 years, and this is before I knew anything about economics, before I knew anything about why freedom was important. I was a young, ignorant kid. I didn't even vote in the last presidential election because I figured, how could something that happened in Washington D.C. have any effect on me? I was ignorant,
mm,
but what I
mm,
experienced was the people in East Germany were spiritually crushed. It's like they had no drive, no
mm,
ambitions. They just went through the motions each day and just wait. I actually met a couple of people who would say that they said, I'm just waiting to die.
mm,
That their life had no meaning, their life had no purpose. And that's what the loss of freedom had robbed from them.
Yeah.
Conversely, can you imagine how much explosion of energy and positivity and the vibe that just the happiness of people being able to achieve their potentials, what that would do to us, to a culture, to a community. I imagine just gonna be a lot of celebration.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna be celebrating. I'd be really excited.
And because it's a whole infrastructure that's going to be in place, right? Schools, hospitals, everything.
We
And
imagine one of our biggest
yeah,
exports is going to be medical industry. We're going to probably have multiple hospitals, because we're going to have medical tourism. People will come to us because the medical services will be
yeah,
cheaper and the higher quality.
mm, yeah, that's very interesting. Mm. And you have a family, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Are they also
Five.
all 5 kids? Are they also
Yeah.
all like sea studies?
They were for first. We're in This is a long-term project. We're in year 6 of the project, so it's still in its infancy. We're still early on.
Mm.
But the different kids have different beliefs, different thoughts on it, but they
Mm.
are kind of tired of hearing about it all the time. Like with any passion that a parent has, the kids get bored with it after a while. So
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Um, and on the, I've just been seeing that you are this Porcupine Festival.
yes,
That's the name of it, right?
I, yeah, this would be my third year going to the Porcupine Festival out in New Hampshire.
Yeah, because that's the place where you spread the. Is it kind of? Are you like kind of missionary kind of for the Freedom Haven? Are you spreading the words on this festival?
I guess you could call it that. I'm proselyting to those who want to hear about it. Um,
Yeah.
Basically, just finding more people involved, because really the only thing that the project's missing is just people. This project would is estimated to cost, well, inflation makes things more expensive, but at the time we estimated it to cost about $260 million for a
Mm.
10-year period, housing 5 to 10,000 people. So per person, it comes out to about, or per cabin, if there's 4,000 cabins, that comes out to about $65,000 for 10 years in a cabin. So basically $6,500 a year
Mm.
for a cabin, which for a space on a ship is actually pretty cheap.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
these costs would be upfront, and that about $165 million of that the project would go towards the actual construction of these ships. And we would hire the shipyards, like Samsung Heavy Industries pumps out a mega container ship about once every month or so. I mean, they just mass
Mm.
produce them. In fact, there's so much demand for these things that we have other shipyards being built all over the world that also just spit out these mega ships all the time. And we would just get in line with our money
Mm.
and say, okay, now it's our turn. Can you build us a ship for us as well? And we know that those ships cost about 160 million to 150 million dollars a piece. Our ship
Mm.
would be a little bit smaller than theirs, but it would have some other features which would put it about the same cost of theirs. That's our
Mm.
estimate. We still need to get a hold of an actual the shipyard to have them do. That's going to be part of phase 3. We're in phase 2 right now, which is mostly marketing. Phase 3 would get an actual design done uh, uh, by the shipyards, which will tell me more specifically what the actual prices are. Because right now we're doing that based on estimates. But if we find enough people that want to invest in this to pay for those cabins up front, either for themselves or to rent it to other people or to open businesses or however they want to use it in a free market, and that money is
Mm.
accounted for, then we have the money that we need for the project. But that's going to take time to actually find enough people who are interested in that. So
Mm.
that's kind of what we're doing in phase 2 is marketing, finding people, spreading the word, and also refining the project. There's still times where we find um, places where we made a mistake here, or not as much as there was the first 4 years. It's been a while since we've discovered something, and we're like, oh, I guess that's not going to work. We need to change this. Our initial
Mm.
couple of years, we had us going through all kinds of different designs, trying to reinvent a wheel, only to realize that what they're building right now is really the best solution. And that's why
Yeah.
they're building it that way. There's a reason for that. It makes economic sense. But once we find enough people, the whole ship and everything will be built within like 3 years. So
Yeah. So that's maybe a blessing also, the slow process, that you're able to see, yeah, you get a deeper understanding of what needs to be done. I'm
what we're
sorry,
looking for right now mostly is to try to understand what. Oh, can you hear me?
No, yeah, it's just breaking up a bit, but I
Can you
hear
hear
you
me?
now. Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh, what one thing we're trying to figure out right now is it's like we have a box of Legos. Have you played with Legos before?
Yeah. Big Lego player. Yeah.
We have a box of Legos and we see the great potential of what you could do with this box of Legos.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that everyone we talk to understands the potential of that as well. So we need to find out, marketing wise, how can we present this to people? What makes them? What do they connect with? What would they look for? What are they excited about? And what do they not are they not interested in? And we shouldn't waste our time on it. For example, we have the population for Freedom Haven. Everyone who wants to be there, we have a line of global refugees, people who have fled for their countries. They want to find a place. We companies could handpick the doctors and the educator, whoever they want from those people, and they would love to come out to this new floating port city. So we have all the population that we need. The only thing we're missing is to find people who'd want to retire there, to people who want to invest there, where the money would come from, because without the money it won't actually get anywhere. And it's where we're learning what works and what doesn't work marketing wise, if that makes sense. And that's something we're not very good at. So we're always happy to have input and ideas from other people, because we're learning this part as we go along.
Yeah. And how many people do you estimate to live on one ship? What's the full capacity?
We are selling space. We're not selling people, like number of people. We're not charging per person. We're charging for the space. So if you have a one cabin is about 7.5 meters by 8 meters. Sorry, feet. Sorry, big difference. 7.5 feet by 8 feet by 19.5 feet. So that's a typical cabin size. Now, whether you have multiple cabins you build into a larger, mansion room or suite or whatever you want to build into, or if you have a smaller cabin that you have your entire family of 10 people living in, that's kind of up to you. So it's hard to predict what the population is going to be like, but we're kind of guesstimating will probably be around 5 to 10,000 people, which means you're going to have about 1.5 to 2.5 people per cabin on average, with a huge variance. You'll probably have places where you have one person living in a huge space, and another place where you have a whole bunch of people living in one place. So it's up for them to decide whatever they're comfortable with, and we will try. It's not for us to put limitations on how cheap people want to live. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
In America, there's a long standing where America will say, well, we're going to try to make it appear like Americans are doing better by passing laws making things that look poor illegal. And in so doing, they try to give the appearance that people are more wealthy, and we won't have anything like that. So people can choose for themselves. They're buying space and they can use it however they want to, as long as they aren't threatening the life, freedom, and property of other people.
And how do you how do you see the American situation right now?
I think most Americans are addicted to socialism. And that's unfortunate, because as socialism makes things more expensive and socialism makes a dollar worth less and raises the prices and makes our medical system gets worse and worse. As it gets worse and worse, they turn to their addiction in the hopes of making it better. And so they keep asking for more and more socialism, but it has the opposite effect. And so I think honestly, I think it's going to be pretty bad right about the time the project finishes, which is estimated in 2042. So I wish we could get this done much faster than that, because
Mm.
I'm worried that we won't be done in time, because things are
Mm.
getting bad here, and things are getting bad all over the world too.
Yeah, yeah, I
Where are
agree.
you? Where are you currently?
In Norway, Oslo.
Okay, Oslo. How
Yeah.
are things in Norway?
Norway is very we are very comfortable here in Norway. Uh, I think these ideas of freedom and sort of economical freedoms and stuff like that is not really it's not a fertile ground for these ideas in Norway. We are too comfortable, I think.
Yeah,
Um, there is not that much at stake for us, and we are getting maybe a bit too. I think we are getting a bit too comfortable.
yeah. The same is true in America. Even the people in America who love freedom and they wish that they had more freedom, even with the loss of freedom they have, their life is still. What Thomas Jefferson said. We tend to. I'm paraphrasing. I don't have it right, but we tend but essentially that while things get bad, we tend to endure and suffer through those hardships instead of changing the situation because we're used to it. And I completely
Mm,
saw it. It's what he said in the Declaration of Independence. Um,
mm,
and in America, it's the same way. So our thoughts on our marketing approach, if it works, is okay. Then if you guys yourself don't want to move out there because you want the freedom, you understand why the freedom is important and why it would work, but you don't want to move out there yourself. But there's a whole bunch of other people who would move out there. Then maybe you guys can come together to an agreement. Maybe you could be the investors. Maybe this could be you want to put $1,000, you want to put $1 million, whatever it is towards this. Buy a bunch of cabins and open up a business or be a renter to rent to
mm,
refugees and immigrants and stuff who do want to come in. And the two of you together, you can make money, they can make money, and you can initiate this free market without you moving out there. And with today's technologies, I mean, like this, beyond this, you could have cameras and securities and 360 cameras, and we could take this to a whole new level. With the free market, we could have animatronic robots that
mm.
wander around. I'm serious. That is
Yeah,
you, and you can actually look around as if you're there, but you just take an hour out of your weekend to see how things are going with your company or your other thing. You can have whatever presence you want while still being comfortable in the world that you're used to. And it makes remote investment, much easier, especially because like Starlink, what Elon Musk's SpaceX
yeah.
has done. We're actually on Starlink right now. It,
Oh,
it's I love it. Anywhere in the world, you have internet access, and it's fast internet access, and it's cheap. I mean, they're still putting it up. The constellation isn't complete, so you get some gaps once in a while, but I'm happy.
yeah. Okay, so you're on Star. This is the first time I'm on Starlink. That's cool. Um, in like technology wise, like what is the do you think all the technology is there to actually to if you were able to, you could do it, you could move out tomorrow?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, the three different areas that we looked at are the modern cruise ships, the
Mm,
aircraft, the naval vessels, like especially the aircraft carrier. The
mm,
aircraft carrier is more it's custom built for a particular purpose. So ours, we went looking like that, and also they're incredibly expensive. But they get all their own water. They are powered by nuclear energy, so they can stay out there for years at a time if they need to. The only thing they need is to have food brought in.
mm,
Um, every aspect of it, there isn't just one option. There are multiple options, and we wouldn't be micromanaging or centrally planning which solution people will go with. Yeah, and if people want to have water that's imported, if they want to have water that we desalinate, you want to go through desalinate this process that's cheaper, but the water tastes a little bit salty, or this water is pure and it's better, but it costs a little more. It's a free market.
mm,
They'll have multiple options to buy electricity from, to buy water from, to buy all the services and products that they're looking for, not just from monopoly, but from multiple solutions. And they'll decide which one wins and which one loses based on where they spend their money. And the money
mm,
they earn would be from the jobs of the products and services that we export from Freedom Haven that the rest of the world would find valuable. The things
mm,
that we could produce cheaper, giving that we don't have as much space. We won't have large acres of farmland. We're like in a huge building in downtown New York. You know, we're like uh, one city, one city block in downtown New York, and then pretty soon there's going to be a whole bunch of these ships here. So it basically would spread out from there. But in those kind of cities, they don't really export agriculture. They export other things, whatever this kind of stuff you'd have in those big cities. Except that we would have the advantage that without regulations and other laws, as long as you weren't threatening someone else's life, freedom, and property, you could solve the world's problems without government getting in your way.
Mm. Do you because I've read your constitution.
Thank you.
It's very, very interesting, and I love how you update it all the time. It's like an open source constitution. Do you think that this will be? Do you imagine the constitution will be like an open-ended document for the whole? Like it will continue. It will never end in a way.
Yeah, and the lovely thing about the ocean is that anyone can take what we build and do their own variation of it a couple miles over. You know, we have our own design. It is, you know, Freedom Haven 1.0. Someone else could have Freedom Haven 2.0, and let the best design, let the best ideas win. There's no monopoly. One thing that is odd about the Constitution that some people have a hard time with is that in today's world, when it comes to property, there's a concept of intangible property and tangible property. And the problem is those come in conflict. Like, for example, if someone were to come by and spray paint on my house without me knowing about it, a bunch of words that are copyrighted, then suddenly I'm responsible for getting rid of those words off my wall, but I had nothing to do with it. But I've kind of lost access to my property because they're trying to uphold both of those. You can't do both. You can't, they intersect each other. You can have tangible and intangible at the same time. So long story short, there's no patents, there's no copyrights in Freedom Haven. There's no anything that you can't touch won't be considered property. The only property you have are the things that you can actually touch. There are things that are important to people. We'll have cryptocurrency and so forth, but it's your responsibility to keep your passwords secret. And if you don't want people to know about something, it's your responsibility to keep it secret. So because of that, everything we do that we have would be available for people to take and make better. And if they do that, that'd be great, because then we in turn can learn from what they've done and make ourselves better. It's all about continual improvement.
Yeah, that's a very beautiful idea. So like the ocean, is this I see the other communities in the seasteading is very much about the ocean in a way, but something tells me, I don't know why, but Freedom Haven is am I right to say that if 200 nautical miles would be or if it would be at the top of a mountain or somewhere not on the sea, you would be just as
Yep. For us, it isn't about the ocean. The ocean just happens to be where we can find it. If some country would sell us an island, now you can buy an island, but you're still part of the country. If some country would sell us an island and acknowledge us as a separate country, we would be all over it, because land is cheaper than on a ship. Living on a ship is more expensive than land, so we would prefer to live on land. But right now, the ocean is the only option we have. So we're just proceeding with whatever is available. But in the last minute, something comes along that's better and cheaper, and that we can actually do something bigger. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. So the I've read something about other micro, or would it be like a micronation? Is that what you would call it?
Yes.
Or
except that,
since it's out of a ship, yeah.
Yeah, except that most micronations that are around today are 1 to maybe 10 or 20 people. This is going to be between 5,000 upwards of 1 million. We are already going to have a population and size and so forth that will soon be bigger than the Vatican, which is, I mean, or other smallest countries in the world. Within a couple of years, we will probably grow to the point that we will not be the smallest country in the world. We would be moved up the ladder. We'll be bigger than some of those smaller countries. Now, us calling ourselves a country doesn't mean that the rest of the world will see us as a country. There's all kinds of
Yeah.
countries in the world today that aren't acknowledged, but they're
Yeah.
countries. We may see ourselves as a country. It doesn't mean that we're acknowledged yet. And it may take a lot for people to acknowledge us because other countries may not like the fact that we are better at doing certain things than they are because we have freedom. And it isn't us doing it that's better. It's the people themselves can find these solutions and innovate and collaborate, and what freedom allows everyone to turn into, everyone to become.
So you still maybe have to hold on to your American passport for some
I probably
while,
would.
or
and we would need to use an international a flag of convenience, like maybe Liberia or some other place like that, until the International Maritime Organization in London recognizes our flag as an official flag registry. Until that happens, we can fly our flag locally, but it won't mean anything to them, and we'll have the Liberian flag over the vessels themselves. But our long-term goal is to have our flag officially recognized by the International Maritime Organization, because without that, other vessels can come along and say, "Oh, you don't have a flag we recognize. That means you're a pirate ship, which means we can legally come and take your vessel." And so we have to make sure that we're legitimate.
Yeah, yeah, of course. And are you in the conversation with, for example, Libya or Liberia, sorry,
Liberia.
Other...
I myself I'm not, but other people that we've talked to have been. There's actually, for example, one of the people in our group. Well, he worked with our group, but he wasn't actually. Wasn't with our. He didn't consider himself part of the Freedom Haven Project. And actually, the Seasteading Project made a point about it. Samuel. I can't remember his name. Samuel, he lived on a barge for about a year close to shore, and he was going to move outside the exclusive economic zone, but he didn't take good enough care of his barge. It was just him and like 5 other people. It was more of a smaller thing, and a storm came by and destroyed the barge, and everyone died except for 2 people. So it was a very sad thing. But he had a Liberia flag on his vessel, and he'd been living under it for a year. So he showed that it worked, but 2 things. His vessel was too small, and 2, he didn't take into account how every ship of the sea, every vessel eventually succumbs to the sea. The vessel we build, if we're lucky, would last 20 years, maybe 30 years. But at some point, you have to move to another vessel, and we can keep doing that. We can keep rebuilding them and keep them churning and so forth. But there is a time where a vessel's lifespan is up, where there's too much rust. You have structural integrity issues where the ships, because of the rust, it's getting too thin in some places where it's just not safe to be out on the ocean. And he took a barge like that and went on the high seas thinking that it'd be fine. And a storm came through and it killed him. And that was really sad. So
when did this happen?
Let's see. It's on our Gathering Freedom Haven group here. And after the Seasteading Institute also did an article about it. Here's the link to that.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, it was. Let me pull up the article. Like 2 months ago.
Oh, okay. So it's very recent.
It's very, very recent. Yeah. It is it's February. February 2nd is when it happened. So basically, about a little over 2 months ago, 2 months and 3 days. So it's very recent. And I actually did an interview of him on his Seastead, just like a month before that. It's on my YouTube.
Wow. You went on his Seastead?
Oh, I don't know.
No, it was
through Zoom. It was through Zoom like this, and he was on Starting too.
Oh, so wow! And is this on your YouTube? You have a YouTube channel, you said?
Yep. I'll send you a link to that.
Yeah,
Um,
perfect. Thank you. Oh, that's interesting. So
and
you,
I didn't ask any hardball questions. When he I I may regret that when he was talking about how he was dealing with all the rust.
mm,
I didn't I didn't really buy it, but I didn't make a big deal about it. I was like that
mm,
was his choice. That's what he wanted to do. And I mentioned some concerns I had about it, but I wasn't drilling him. I was just letting him ask questions and talk about it. So
mm.
um, but yeah, a lot of people were concerned. Um, Let me pull it up. Where is it? Channel. Samuel Landy is his name. Here's his, and here's the interview. Um, and here's my YouTube channel in general.
What do you do outside of the when you're not working with the Freedom Haven?
Oh, this is volunteer work. I'm not paid for
Yeah.
anything. No one in the group is paid for anything. I have a family with kids. I have a normal 40-hour week job. I'm a software developer.
Mm,
Um, I spend about maybe 10 to 20 hours a week on this on the side.
mm,
Plus, 2 weeks out in Port Fest and other big events like that.
mm,
Um, so I just those three things. I have a job, I have a family, and I seek for freedom. Any way we can
yeah.
obtain more freedom.
Yeah. Well,
And
it's
I'm committed to this long term. This is going to be 24 years. No, is it was 24 years total. So this is going to be a long term project to get this off the
yeah.
ground. So
Have you had like similar projects before Freedom Haven?
oh, nothing like this. No.
No.
I mean, yeah, I created a company when I was out in Washington State where I wanted to take 360 videos before there were 360 cameras. I found a way to stitch them, software to stitch them together. And I was going to do something like that, and other those
Mm,
small one company jobs like that I've done. Um, Another one I'm making 3D models for. I was going to make and sell 3D models to a company, and various entrepreneur stuff. But those are just little small one person things. Um,
mm,
this is if I can accomplish, in addition to my family, if I can accomplish one important thing in my life before I move on, and this
mm,
is it, I will consider this I'll consider my life well lived to
mm,
have been able to give, because once this exists, it's like the genie's out of the bottle.
mm,
The world will be able to see how easy it is and how the technology is already they're put together this way that suddenly all these refugees, instead of fleeing to other countries, they'll flee to the oceans. Everyone will be fleeing to the oceans for the freedom that exists out there. And this will
mm,
change everything. As soon as it can be shown that this works, and not only does it work, but people can thrive and prosper under it. Um, and we'll have some of them that will say, okay, well, we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to do it without freedom. And they're going to like, I don't know
mm,
why it didn't work. Why didn't it work without freedom? Because without freedom, it won't work. So,
mm.
um, but once we show this happens, it's gonna, yeah. So this is, this is very important to me. I've never been on a project, an outside project outside of work for 6 years like this. I never devoted this much time and energy into anything like this before. So um, this is something very dear to my heart.
Yeah. What's like what do you feel like is the most important things you learned during this 6 years?
Um, well, the technology. I learned a lot about the technology, how it works. I understand how these ships are built, even though some people get confused. People think that we're building ships. We're not building
Mm,
ships, and
no.
I learned I had to word things differently, because I used to say, "Oh yeah, we're going to build these ships and whatever." What I meant was we're going to have those ships built. We're not actually going to go out there and build these ships. Companies actually do that very well, and we wouldn't be able to do it as well as they can. But
Mm,
just learning the technology, um, learning myself how to market better, to present
Yep.
better, and
Mm.
that's something that's a learning process. I'm not very good at marketing. I'm not a people person. I'm not very good communicator. So it's been a real hurdle to learn how to present stuff that has the correct response from the audience.
Mm.
While at the same time not being dishonest. There's so much in today's world that's dishonest. There's clickbait, there's there's misleading stuff, there's salespeople who will sell you the world, but in the end that's not they deliver. I integrity and honesty are very important to me. So to do all of that without taking any of those simple approaches that everyone else uses to to get the clickbait, to get cheap attention. I can't do any of those things. I won't do any of those things. So it's a little more difficult. In addition to the fact that I'm not a natural, I'm not naturally good at marketing.
Mm.
So
You
those
had
are
some,
some of the things.
because when you've been on the pork festival the other years, do you present and spread the word, or
Yep.
how does these
The first
festivals
year I had
yeah.
the first year I had 2 presentations. The last year I had 8 presentations.
Wow.
This year I'll probably have um, maybe 4 to 6, which is less than last year. Because instead of just
Mm.
getting presentations, we're going to have more one-on-one conversations with people to learn more about what it is they like, don't like, seek, and get some feedback.
Mm.
I can standing up in front of a group of people and giving a talk is one thing, but if you want to market to them, I need to understand what it is they're seeking for and what it is they're not seeking for. What do they like and don't like, so that we can use this box of Legos to show them some of the things that they can build with these Legos that they actually do want.
Mm.
I mean, I
Yeah.
see the box of Legos and I'm instantly excited about it. I'm like, oh wow, look at the
Yeah.
potential of that. But most people don't see that. They see a box of Legos. They need to have the cover where it shows the car or the spaceship or
Yeah.
whatever it is or it builds. Until you show them that, they're like, what is this going to do for me? How is this going to benefit us?
Do you think, because I would really love to join the pork festival. Is it free for anyone to join?
Um, there are It's available for anyone to join. There are 2 things you have to go to Pork Festival. One is there is a ticket for the whole week long pork event, which is like
Yeah.
it starts off cheap, like $75 and goes up to 125, and it gets more expensive. And it's still
Mm.
125 right now. The $125 is for the whole thing, and then you have
Yeah.
to have a place where you're going to stay.
Yeah.
Um, and most people stay at the campground, and the
Mm.
campground's like $50 to $60 a night, so that's expensive.
Yeah.
Um, but other than that, it's available for everyone.
Are there like a motel or something close by, or can you put up a
There is,
tent or?
yeah, we have tents and RVs and so forth, but there is our hotels nearby, but they usually
Mm.
fill up the first thing. Most people
Yeah.
go to the hotels first, and those are probably already full. You can check them out though if you want to. Um,
Yeah.
if if you were thinking about going to Pork Fest, we
Mm.
have room in our site. We have an RV site, and it's big,
Yeah.
and we actually have other people there that have tents there. If you want to, if you'd be interested, you want to have a tent on our site, you'd be
Yeah.
welcome. The campground charges an extra $10 a night per person for the water and the sewer system, which is actually they're actually doing a lot of maintenance with it there.
Yeah.
But you'd be welcome to do that. You just have to pay them their fee, but you'd be welcome to share our site or whatever one you like.
That would be thank you, man. That would be really
You're
great.
welcome.
And when is this, in June?
This is June. Let me pull up actual time. Pork Fest. This is Pork Fest 21, the 21st Pork Fest. It'll be my third Pork Fest.
Yeah.
It is June 17th through 23rd. Of course, for you, also, you have the additional complication that they require you to get a visa, or how does that work?
Yeah, since I'm the regular ESTA is 3 months. That's without a visa, but for 6 months you need a visa. So I'm going to the embassy next week
Oh, cool.
to get that sorted out.
Me.
And then I'll just hope they'll accept.
Cool. Well, maybe I'll see you there. It'd be awesome.
I hope so. I really hope so. Is there any event before that I could attend? Or
well, we do have events before that. We are doing we are starting. This is the first year doing it. We are because New Hampshire is sorry, it's a little warm in here. This room doesn't get any ventilation. New Hampshire is far away from Iowa. It costs me like $1,000 just to transport everything out there and then back again. Because we have a big tent and big setup and so forth. But there are people in the Midwest, in the middle of the United States, that don't have access to this and want it to. So we are creating here locally in a month, and actually next month, the first Saturday week of May, we're having what we call a Midwest Pork Fest.
Okay. Like your own Pork Fest.
Yes, but it'll be very small. I mean, this is the first time when Pork Fest in New Hampshire happened. The first time they happened, it was also really small. But ours may be even smaller. We may have only 10 or 20 people there the first time. So it's really small. Whereas in Pork Fest in New Hampshire, they have like 2,000 to 3,000 people there. It's huge. I mean, and it's amazing. Most people there are people who love freedom. And most of them are also just a little bit weird, like I am. And I love that too.
Comes with the territory, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
It takes a unique kind of mind to be able to think outside the box like that. So
100%.
Almost everyone you meet out there is an instant friend. I love those people.
How cool! But so you are hosting a Midwest version of it in May, you said?
Yep, I'll do. I'll show you. I'll send you the link. But here's. I mean, it's very low key. It's nothing really that impressive, but I'm excited for it. And I'll be making free pancakes, and it's also not that long. It's short. It's only Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Whereas Pork Fest, I'm going to be out in Pork Fest for 2 whole weeks.
Oh wow!
Pork Fest itself is only 1 week long, but I'm going to stay 3 days before and 3 days after for the events that happen before and after. There's only maybe a couple hundred people after that, but I like to milk both of those. So ours is really small. It's oh, sorry, I didn't do that. That wasn't the whole thing. Share, copy. Okay, let me undo that one.
Because like part of the whole anthropological work is, or the method is, it's very from the ground up. It's about hanging out with people, learning to understand like how people live, how people understand different things. Not to like theorize from above, but like to be a part of, to see how the community really is. So everything would be it's very interesting for me. And I would also love to help out if there's anything you like, if you in just like carrying stuff, making pancakes, whatever. But maybe I'll see you at the Midwest one as well.
Awesome. That'd be awesome.
Great.
Do you have any other questions or anything else I can help with?
Not right now. This has been a great conversation, I think, and I learned a lot. And no, I'm not. Do you have anything you want to add?
Oh no. This has been great. I love talking about freedom.
Yeah, you're really aspiring. You're a great. You're doing great marketing right now, I think.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. I feel very inadequate, but I appreciate that.
No, but thank you so much.
If you have any questions online, feel free to ping me anytime. I'd be happy to help. And especially also if you have any ideas or suggestions. We post up on a group saying, what do you guys think about this? For example, we're going to be making, last year we were in a local in our area,
Mm.
Keokuk. We were in a Labor Day parade, and we had like maybe a dozen people show up, and actually we ended up becoming on the front page of the local newspaper. It's actually the on my Facebook page at the top is actually the front page of that. It's kind of cool. I'm
Yeah.
on the front page of the paper. That's kind of cool. Um,
Yeah.
and they had a float and everything. And this year, in September, the guy who was kind of putting it together, David Palmisano, he has an even larger trailer, and he wants to, hand up, and he wants a big banner. So he wants me to put together a big banner, like 20 foot by 4 foot on both sides, with the
Mm.
logo and everything on it. And so we need to design a good logo, a good,
Yeah.
and I don't. So I'm actually going to be posting today on the group. Here's what Freedom Haven is. How do we summarize that in like a few words? What's a good logo for that? We need to buy cards for Pork Fest, and so we
Yeah.
usually ask questions like that in a group and get some feedback. Um, and
Cool.
that I love that because our project is the culmination of all the input and conversations we've had with all of these people over the course of the last 6 years, and we couldn't have done it without them. We really do appreciate them.
Yeah. It's sounds like a very organic process you're
Yeah,
working with here. Yeah.
I love it. Well, it's been great talking to you. Thanks a lot, Peter. And I'll see you online.
I see you online. I'll contact you if I'll come to the Midwest one.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
I'll
That'd be
write to
awesome.
you beforehand, and I'm looking forward to taste the pancakes.
Awesome. Okay,
Okay. Thank you
I'll
so
see you
much,
later.
Anthony. Have a good
You're
day.
welcome.
Bye.
Bye.